And welcome back to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Delvecchio here. According to Stats Canada, 1 in 4 Canadians aged 15 years or older reported providing care for family members or friends with a long-term condition, a physical or mental disability, or problems related to aging. If you think about it, if you are not already a caregiver, I'm sure you know someone who is. Well, joining us today is Ella Amir. She's the executive director at Ami Québec. It's a community organization whose services are tailored to support and uplift caregivers to cope with mental illness. Ella, welcome to Life Unrehearsed.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for joining me here on a Sunday. Such an important cause. And let's hear a little bit more about Ami Québec. Ella, what defines the organization?
The mandate of the organization is, as you said, to address the needs of family caregivers. And again, it can be biological families, it could be friends, but it's unpaid caregivers who provide support for, any kind of problems. In our context, we are working predominantly with mental illness, mental health challenges in a loved one.
All right. And what is your role, Ella, at Ami Québec?
I'm the executive director.
All right, very good. And you got a wonderful website, lots of information, nice team. One of the important issues, we've talked about caregiving and caregivers here in Life Unrehearsed many, many times. And one of the topics that I'm sure resonates with you, where you help families, it's when they don't feel like they have the right to prioritize themselves. So what support does Ami Québec offer to caregivers?
Right. I think that this is a very good, observation, because I think that very often, especially at the beginning of a journey, families don't feel that they have the right to help themselves. But I'm very often saying that self-care and looking after your own needs as a caregiver is not just a right, it's an obligation. Because if you really want to fulfill your role, your responsibilities as a caregiver, you really do have to take care of yourself. So, we have a wide range of services, and we adjust them from time to time, basically to make sure that we are responding to the needs of families. So we have a number of support groups every 3 evenings every month. We have a variety of workshops. We have certain kind of groups for caregivers. And at the same time, we have individual counseling or family counseling for people who are for caregivers. So again, as I said, we, in addition to that, we also go to the community and talk about mental illness and mental health. So, we are trying not only to offer support for caregivers, but also to help remove the stigma which is still associated with mental illness. So we do go to schools, we go to anybody who is willing to listen to us.
You're listening to Life Unrehearsed. Matt Delvecchio here, and we're talking with Ella Amir from Ami Québec about support for families and caregivers with loved ones with mental illness. Brought up some very good points there, Ella, and I want to talk about an important issue regarding families. You may have a loved one. It could be a son or a daughter, a child. Yet there is also a sibling involved. And this is dear to my heart as well, with a special needs daughter and a sibling. And this is something that Ami Québec really does well with, and we can't underestimate when we're supporting someone, a loved one with mental illness, we cannot lose sight of the fact that there may be other family members that may also need support, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Historically, until a couple of years ago, most of the caregivers that we helped were adults. Again, they were predominantly parents, but they could be partners and could be also, adult children of parents. But in the past couple of years, we realized that there is a whole constituency called young carers. And young carers is exactly what you are referring to. If you have a daughter with some kind of disability and you have another child, he would qualify to be called young carer. And again, these young carers are very often the last ones to recognize themselves as young carers because, they do what they have to do in the family. But I think that this is really very important group because in as much as I think that caring for a sibling or for a parent or for, any family member can have lots of benefits, there are also risk factors which are associated with it. And it can impact the academic achievement of the child, the social relationship, and, later on, even career choices. So in the past couple of years, we have been paying increasing attention to this group, and we are in contact with with school boards and really trying to raise awareness for this very important group.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you're out in the community, Ella. So important, and with the schools, because it's just not an adult issue or a parent or a grandparent issue. Very much young carers involved as well. So just love what you're doing there. Now, it's an evolving field, mental illness, particularly since the pandemic. It has been on the radar, much more so than ever, I would say. But there may be some underrated services, Ella, that more people should be aware of. Can you share any with us?
Look, I think that it's really very interesting because I think that the mainstream services are really not representing a comprehensive array of services. Much of the services, much of the treatment, I should say, not necessarily services, much of the treatment from mental illness is from medications, pharmacology. But when we are talking about services for caregivers, it is what we said, it's support, information, advocacy, anything that could help them to carry on their caregiving responsibilities and also to take care of their own needs.
And you have so many support groups, wonderful resources, workshops. Tell us a little bit more about it. If some of our listeners want to get involved, and very often, sometimes it's taking the very first step, just maybe even looking on your website. And we all tend, I think it's human nature to think, we've got this, we could handle it. Particularly, the older generations, we could do this on our own. When in fact, you've got these support groups and workshops. So, what would you suggest for listeners that want to find out a little bit more? Where can they go?
Right. I think that's exactly what you said. I think that probably the first step is to visit our website, amiquebec.org. There is plenty of information which is being updated on a very regular basis. And I think that everybody can find something that they can try to explore. I think that it's really important I think that it was someone who said that there are only 4 kinds of people in the world. Those who are offering caregiving today, those who have offered caregiving in the past, those who are going to offer caregiving in the future, and those who are receiving help. So it basically put all of us in the same boat, if you will, and I think that it's really important to recognize, again, especially in the context of mental illness, because there is still stigma associated with it. I think that the more we talk about it, the more we encourage people to seek help, I think that the better, their lot may be, both theirs and their loved ones.
So true, and I'm glad you're mentioning the stigma. I think it is improving. We still have a long ways to go, Ella, and it's organizations like Ami Québec that are help breaking that stigma and offering support. And I think that's the important thing here is we cannot, it's not a pride issue. Reach out. Those support groups and workshops are available. And so if our listeners want to get to your website, what is the website for Ami Québec?
It is amiquebec.org. Very simple.
All right, amiquebec.org.
That's right, just one word.
All right, Ella, thank you very much for joining us here on Life Unrehearsed.
My pleasure.
All right, that's Ella Amir, the Executive Director of Ami Québec. Now, speaking about stigma and mental health, we're going to crank it up to a whole new level now. And, the Douglas Institute is at the cutting edge of brain science while supporting over 20,000 outpatients per year. We've got Laura Fish, President and CEO of the Douglas Foundation, that will be joining me in studio. And that's going to be coming up after a CTV News update.